All I know is you. All I want is more, but I got some things to do. I'm a dog of war. Hell's what I've been through. I'm a dog of war. I did it all for you. I'm a soldier, I'm a warrior. Got an emblem on my cover. And ask me what I did for you. I put the trash deep down under. Yeah, I'm a dog of war. Hell's what I've been through. I'm a dog of war. I did it all for you.
Took some time in the place, man. I just needed some space. All the pain show in my face, and my heart starts to race. Been a brother.
Brother, please let us know for last thoughts, our listeners live and on podcast.
All right, we know that I do joke quite often about my attempted escapes from the psych ward, but in all seriousness, the psych ward gang is seriously my idea of representing the military. Representing mental health in the military community. So, if you happen to run into any type of mental health crisis or emergency, do not be ashamed nor afraid to dial 988, press option 1. Again, just as I had to do when I was in a moment of crisis, do not be ashamed nor afraid to dial the digits 988. Then press option 1 if you find yourself in a similar mental health crisis. Hello. This is Sergeant WarDawg. Welcome to episode 68 of the WarDawg Trail podcast. Now, today we have an amazing guest coming on for you today. She is in the forensic psychology field. She has written a book, as you can see here, called PTSD Unplugged: How to Leave the War Behind Us. But before we bring her on, I am going to go over just a couple of announcements. All right. Now, remember, I am a brand ambassador for Reaper Apparel Co. So, you can use my code, Sergeant WarDawg TV, as you see in the ticker below. You can use my code, Sergeant WarDawg TV, for 10% off of your entire order. It's Reaper Apparel Co. I know many of you veterans will like that brand and think that brand's pretty cool. Next, Peace for Warriors. Peace for Warriors is a nonprofit organization that takes veterans that might be struggling with finding their purpose or mission in life and takes them to volunteer around the world. I will be joining Peace for Warriors next March of 2024 to volunteer in the Philippines, where we will repair a school and a village just north of the Subic Bay. So, Peace for Warriors can be found at peaceforwarriors.org. Next, remember, I am a part of the DV Radio Network. DV stands for Dysfunctional Veterans. I'm a part of DV Radio, which airs live every Saturday night from 8 p.m. At dvradio.net. Next, my second podcast just debuted last week. Bullets, Blades, and Hooks is a podcast where I interview organizations with my buddy, Jim Gunn. We interview nonprofits that take veterans out to hunt, camp, fish, or shoot. Be sure to tune in every other Friday on our YouTube channel or Spotify. That is Bullets, Blades, and Hooks. It's a complete veterans outdoor experience podcast where we highlight companies that take veterans out to hunt, camp, fish, or shoot. Remember, I do have my own veterans nonprofit that I am still in the process of creating. That's Camp Doghouse, all right, which can be found at campdoghouse.org. It's a homeless veterans camp on land that I own in Central Florida. Be sure to check out campdoghouse.org. Next, we did win 2 awards this year for 2023 from the organization Acquisitor International Magazine. We were named the 2023 the 2023 leading veteran welfare outreach nonprofit organization from the USA, because this company is based in the UK. So that makes this an international award. Next, we were also awarded Veteran Support Nonprofit Organization of the Year by Corporate Livewire. That is another international company based outside of the U.S. that awarded the show for its features. Next, I will be at SHOT Show 2024 in Las Vegas. That's next month, January 2024, from January 23rd through the 26th. I will be there as a media member, so I will have a press pass. You can find me on the showroom floor filming, showing you the hottest new guns and gear and fishing and hunting equipment, or you can find me in the press room. Okay, this podcast airs daily, every single day, Monday through Sunday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on Military Broadcast Radio. You can download the Military Broadcast Radio app from both the Apple and Google Play stores and search for the WarDawg Trail podcast, where you will be able to both watch the video on YouTube, on the MBR YouTube channel, or hear the podcast via the MBR radio app. Next announcement, I was awarded an invitation to the SHOT Show Range Day by Glock. So you will see me filming exclusive footage of Glock's new guns for 2024 at the Industry Day at the range as a media member. Next, we want to be sure to be on the lookout for us at SHOT Show, where we will be testing and can't wait to get our hands on the Radian Model 1 rifle, as well as rifles from Horizon Firearms. We will be checking out their weapons at SHOT Show 2024 in Las Vegas as well. Finally, we are media members of the National Shooting Sports Foundation, which owns and runs the SHOT Show. We will soon be members of the Professional Outdoor Media Association. We'll soon have our press pass and media credentials with them. And from the company Ecotech, this is the Helion game caller for all of you predator hunters out there. If you like to hunt coyotes, wild hogs, this is a game caller that is changing the game. Be one for you to want to. All right. That was a tongue twister, but without further ado, I bring to you the one, the only, Dr. Pamela Hall, PhD. Dr. Pam, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Sarge. How are you doing today? Thanks for bringing me on. It's
I'm
cool to be talking to a guy like you who's doing all that stuff that you just went through. That's awesome.
Thanks a lot,
Awesome.
Doc.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Take, Taking up that identity and just running with it. I love it. I love
That's exactly what it is. That's
that's
exactly what I did.
yeah.
And I'm glad you noticed it. I'm glad you
Yeah,
noticed.
I totally noticed it. Yeah. Yeah.
If you don't mind, can you start us off and let us know about your background in forensic psychology?
Absolutely. So I've been in mental health psychology since the 1980s, you know. So my first year in graduate school in mental health was the year that the PTSD diagnosis got in the diagnostic manual. So I've been watching and working in PTSD since the 80s. More recently, I've been look at that. You're moving on to my. Is this what's up live? Is you moving around on my website here?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
or in Instagram. So
Yes. I'm on your
yeah,
Instagram.
so kind of moving ahead as you know, the decade of the 80s, I did a lot of work in chronic pain and head injuries. So along with that, in the 90s, moving into PTSD and working with combat vets. But the stuff we didn't know about PTSD was a lot in the 90s, and the way that TBI and PTSD are now kind of known and integrated as the double whammy for combat veterans is something that I've grown into as my colleagues have done research, and other doctors and neurologists and whatever getting involved in identifying the way that violence affects our brains, the way that head injury affects our brains, the way that these things overlap. So I started doing VA benefits exams in 2008 and have been doing them ever since at some greater or lesser frequency. Done by 2019, I had done like 6,000 examinations of veterans. And at that point, I was going home and talking to my family and friends about what I was seeing, the things that people knew and didn't know, the things that vets, I would ask vets, have you Googled this? Have you looked up PTSD? Do you know what we know about PTSD yet? And, pretty much people were not looking it up. This label is something that nobody wants. And nobody wants to be identified as having this difficulty, and looking it up or learning about it was just something people said they weren't doing. So I was starting to just give information during VA exams about what we know and where we are now as far as the impact on the brain of violence events. And so I decided, at the urging of my friends, to write this book in 2019. We hit the pandemic in 2020, refined the book a little bit, got it down to like 100 pages of the core information that people really, I think, need to know. You need to know what's going on to get better, or it just gets sidelined. And I know, Sarge, you were sidelined for a bunch of years. And I hate that for you guys, coming back from doing all this hard work out there downrange, and then you come back and these, the memories surprise you, shock you with how vicious they are, how vivid they are. And so this book has basically all the information that a person needs to know about what we know about PTSD, and how to like a platform of, this is the basic information, now figure out how that applies to yourself. So that's what this book is about. That's why I agreed to come on podcast, because to get the information out there is my goal until the day I decide I'm just going to retire. But that won't be for a little while. So thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I appreciate being able to talk to guys with guns about PTSD. I might get to do that through your means here, and I really do appreciate that.
Awesome. Yeah. I really wanted to give everything context. This is going to be the first time I admit some things on the air. So, but you're the person that I wanted to do it with and do it in front of, because you understand me and men and women like me, an entire generation of us. So
that's right. Yeah. 4.5 million deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan. It's a whole culture of folks under the age of 20 who did the work that y'all did. So yeah, I'm here for this.
Right on. All right. Yeah. Right on. All right. Now, I served as an actual Marine infantry rifleman. I was front lines. I know you might hear that a lot, but I promise you, I have no reason to lie. I was proud, to be honest with you. I joined the Corps at 18, about a month after high school. I was accepted into colleges, but I really had to prove to myself that I could make it into the Marines. I just had to. I can't explain why, but I had to. And I joined the infantry, became a rifleman, and I was present for the very first day of the Iraq War. And if as anyone knows from what we've seen in movies or read in books, the very first day of a war, or very first days, can be some of the most hectic and deadly and just horrific. So I went through the first days of the Iraq War. Then I was sent back the following year into Fallujah after the Blackwater contractors were murdered. And then the following year after that, I was sent back again, and strictly in Fallujah that time. So I ended up turning 3 birthdays, 19, 20, and 21 in Iraq during the war. I mean, that's, it's just that me and, an entire generation, as you just said, millions of men and women, that's the way our life was. We spent birthdays and holidays year after year, honestly, at war, not doing, non-violent things. We were the ones that were actually coming in your house, speaking to you in Arabic face to face, and
Fallujah in 04 and 05. Generally speaking, I don't think the civilian population knows about the battles in Fallujah, No. Just even to say that, so I grew up during Vietnam, and so everybody knew the Tet Offensive.
Right, 68.
Even when it was happening, we knew these words,
Right.
But now that whole 04, 05 went by. That was before I got involved again with vets and service members. And that whole time went by, and I never heard the words, the Battle of Fallujah. So,
Wow.
Was it covered? Was I just not watching? And so that part of my life from 03 to 06, I thought I was staying up on the war, but because we were at war.
It's hard to know, yeah.
But then when I started hearing about the battles in Fallujah, I was shocked and amazed. A lot of very busy time. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Now,
thank you for your service, Sarge.
Thank you for saying so, Doc. Thank you. Let's see. After I did 7 years in the Corps, before eventually becoming 100% with the VA and all, and Social Security and all. But the reason that had to happen was because I had to be hospitalized 5 separate times. I had to be Baker Acted in the state of Florida because I struggled with suicide. I just could not see any other options other than, every loop of my solution circle just kept thinking that was the only option. So I turned to the VA and turned to the crisis lines, and now I've turned towards what they call it, using a 988.
Yeah.
I turned to those, and they truly saved my life. I can admit that.
Were you in the service still when you went through that?
No. I was 2 years after I finished my active time. I was going to college. I had just entered my junior or senior year. And for some reason, everything came back. Everything that I hadn't thought about or that I'd put away in my mind from all three tours just began to flood me, and I didn't know how to handle it. So I turned to alcohol at times, but it wasn't like hard. I just mean as opposed to not doing it at all, I did turn to alcohol, is what I'll say. So I wasn't, bad with it, but it was a time when I was
had
down.
the alcohol scenario.
Right.
But other stuff, do you ever figure out what it was that brought it to a head for you while you were in college?
I realized I had certain triggers. So things like fireworks on the New Year's or the 4th of July, that takes me to a different place. Or watching movies about the Middle East sometimes does that for me. Or anytime I have to deal with looking at a building that is 2-story or more with windows, it gets me worrying about snipers and being shot at, because I've been shot at pretty often from snipers, from rooftops, from windows. So especially I get bad if I'm downtown, like downtown Orlando for me, and I see skyscrapers and all those windows and all those rooftops and all those places where people could be shooting at me from. That ended up being kind of things that triggered me. So I don't know why, but yeah.
You let me know if I say things that, and I say the word activate rather than trigger, because I think when post-traumatic stress gets working on us, it gets like turned on. It's not like just a moment that passes, it's like a thing. It's like a little episode that gets turned on for us for a minute. But this is how I learned about Fallujah, is because of the sniper scenario. So I was, right? So like I said, I'd been working in VA benefits exams since 2008, but it wasn't until 2013 and 14 that I started seeing people from Fallujah. It was like, that was when I started seeing that vets were taken 10 years post-deployment before they were in a VA exam.
Yeah.
So, right? So you spend an amount of time wanting to deal with it yourself, wanting, like, just believing it's going to be all right, that things are going to fade, But in 2013, I was working in a clinic in Koreatown, California. It's like a little spot outside of, like, near West LA. That's where I live, in Burbank area in Los Angeles. And so I've worked all across LA with service members, but I was in Koreatown at that time, and I'd have people come into the clinic, drive past. You should just look at pictures of Koreatown. They kept telling me, God, it looks like Baghdad coming into this clinic. And it was like absolutely accurate. So once I started hearing that from vets, I like looked up Baghdad, and Koreatown. But it's like the 2-story, 3-story buildings.
I did stay in Koreatown before. I had an Airbnb when I came for a Lakers game.
Oh my
Thank
God,
you.
right? So there's a street there, Western Avenue. So you pick up Western Avenue off of the 101 and just start driving from the 101 to the clinic. And the guys would come in and just be super activated, just coming to the clinic. 'Cause they're like, oh my God, it's like Baghdad here. And so, right? And so that's when I think the American Sniper movie came out around that time, which was also like activating people.
Yeah.
The Chris is his name,
Kyle.
Kyle. Yeah, and so yeah, I just started just my understanding of what happened in the war, what happened in Fallujah, what happened in Baghdad, and Ramadi and all parts, on the highways, the way the IEDs started becoming an increasing
Yeah.
problem over time, and then how things ticked up in Afghanistan, and all while I'm going through this for like a decade or so, um, I'm just learning what you all were doing downrange. So it sounds like that was about the time that you were in your college years. What were you studying in college?
International relations.
Well,
For
shoot. Yeah,
yeah, for some reason, after I worked with the foreign militaries or the Iraqis,
sure.
um, it really opened my eyes to everything international. It really
Yeah,
did.
makes a lot of sense. It is so complex, isn't it? We like can't sit and have a simplistic view of the war and say there's the bad guys and here's the good guys, and
Mhm.
it's this has been our war life since, at least since Vietnam, where the good guys and the bad guys,
They're mixed. Yeah.
so complicated, so complex. So you had a big sorry to hear you had a big spin out. But I've heard from people before, it's
Right.
like that moment when everything just comes back and
Yeah, it comes
piles
back.
on
Those
heavy.
those are the
Yeah.
exact words that I use. I can just say it comes back. I don't know why, but it came back, and those are the only words I can think of to use. It just
You
came
probably were
back.
having some pretty good nightmares going on there.
Yeah, yeah. Even now, my wife will tell me that, and because I can't believe it, but she'll tell me stuff like I was speaking in Arabic in my sleep, or I was
Yeah,
um I was telling someone to get off me, or I started kicking for no reason, or
right,
just
right.
strange things that it. It's amazing that I'm still married to her after after things like that. But that's why I wanted to have you on the show, for just so I could rehash things like that. That even to explain things to you and to explain what I've been through, even with my wife. That
Yeah, yeah,
it's a part of being a true and real war veteran. I won't lie to you. When I used to watch war movies growing up, I used to think, okay, if a guy did certain things like that in his sleep, like that guy was like really on point, and he was just like some really awesome, amazing, operator or military guy or SWAT operator, or
yeah.
you know. But now to have it and to have those actual problems and to be the one to have to wake up with the dreams, or to wake up with the cold sweats or wet shirts, it's
Mm,
like, man, I thought it was just the movies. I thought it was just the movies.
that's
I didn't
something.
know it
Yeah.
was that serious.
So when it got serious for you, that's when suicide seemed like a better option than.
Yeah. Well, I was affected by moral injury, because while I was in college, I was finally informed that we, like, how the UN felt about us going into Iraq and how we
Yeah,
proceeded anyway. I didn't fully grasp that when I was 18 and I went in.
right.
I didn't fully grasp that part, that we weren't supposed to go. So then it started to bother things in my head, like, oh my gosh, so if that means we were wrong and it was illegal, and then that means we really did invade their country, and that means they did have a right to fight us back, and then so that means they did have a right to shoot back at me, which oh no, that, and I had a real conflict of that part of like, man, so
Right.
they were right to be shooting at me, and I just couldn't wrap my head. I really got really mind blown over that.
There's no easy wrap up sentence to that, is there? It's like
No, no.
it's just so complicated, and one of the things that pisses me off more than like there are a few things that kind of piss me off about how we dealt with this war. And one of the big things is we didn't have places, spaces, we still don't, for you guys to just talk that moral injury out.
Oh, yeah.
It's like all of us want to do a quick pat you on the head and say it's all right. It's you were in the Army, or you were in the Marine Corps. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, it's all good. It's all good.
So we want to like do a quick pat you on the head, but it's pretty complicated. And when you're grown, you learn how to live with the complications of everything. But boy, if you don't, so you went through that, and sounds like you found some footing at some point. How did you find the ground again? Like I am a shrink. I've been a shrink forever. The idea of grounding is very important to me. I ground all the time. I'm actually right now in Vail, Colorado. I have a couple of days of work to do down the mountain from here, but I'm spending a little time on my own here in Vail, Colorado, to do some grounding outdoors, which I know you value. I value that too. So today it's sunny, the sky is blue. I'm stuck in this hotel room for a minute, but it's all right. I'm going to get out later, because it's just like to be outdoors where it's beautiful, and it just takes you out of some of the complications. It's a grounding thing.
Yeah.
It helps me focus. It makes me feel good about, because I could get all spun out about war too, given the work that I do. But, I can't say I never have, but gotten spun out. But when I do, that's my go-to, is getting outside. How long did it take you to come out of that? Because people need to have hope that they can come out of that dark place. So
you hit it right on the head when you said 10 years. It took me 10 years of being stagnant, of yes, I did get on a regimen of medication and therapy, and attending regular counselings and whatnot. But it took 10 years of that, and I was just being a suburban dad, just taking my kids to school, that sort of thing, but never really living or venturing much outside of existing for different reasons. I had a real big problem leaving the house for a while, just in terms of I can never wrap my head around the fact that, okay, I know at my house I'm safe, and then if I leave the house and any other thing happens in this world, I know I always kick myself in the ass for not just saying I stayed home. So I lived like that for 10 years, and I never really left the house, which I'm ashamed of now, but it wasn't until 2018 when I bought a rifle, and I happened to buy a small amount of land with it, and something about going camping and having a rifle in my hands just like opened me up like never before, like nothing I'd ever touched, like a high that I never felt, to be outdoors and to know like, hey, I know what I'm doing. I know how to put this tent together. I know how to survive off eating again.
Right.
For some reason, stuff like that, it really brought back the infantry marine in me, the grunt in me. I went from there to pretty much everything you see now, to where I started to hunt, got my hunting license. I started to take a GoPro with me and record. That turned into a YouTube channel, which turned into this podcast. And I'm really big now on trying to get other veterans and whatnot to come into that that setting, into that feeling. So I started a nonprofit, campdoghouse.org, which is going to be a home veterans camp. So I'm going to use my land, and I'm trying to get like 10 to 20 RVs. I'm sorry, not 10 to 20. I'm trying to get 5 to 10 RVs that I can put 2 men in. I can only accommodate men for right now, but I'm working on getting the grants and getting the RVs so that I can have my own homeless war veterans camp for those veterans that don't mind being in a camp setting. It's like they can use this as a jump off point, as a launch pad.
Well, you can show them. You can be that guy who knows how to get out of the darkness through the woods. Through the woods, which is awesome. I have yet to meet another psychologist who could be happy about weapons being used for grounding, but I think they are very grounding. Like the whole discipline of using a weapon is a very grounding practice.
Right.
I'll put that psych term on there. It's the way that you focus in, and the worries kind of leave you for a minute. And so say you've got some combat memories going on. Some people would say, well, don't pick up a weapon because that'll make it worse. But actually, the sort of settling into using a weapon properly in a safe and sane kind of a way is a very focused exercise, and can help to pull you out of that past moment in time and put you into fully this moment in time, being in, because you have to be safe. You have to. Yeah. If nothing else, being a Marine, being a soldier, being in the military teaches you how to be safe with weapons. So people get all freaked out about, people in the service with PTSD being dangerous. And I'm like, no, seriously, being in the military teaches you how to be safe with weapons. And the kind of discipline it takes to use a weapon properly, and so forth. So yeah, I can see that. So, and I've heard from people in that way too. It seems like since I've been out on social media, just trying to be helpful as far as information goes, from my discipline, I'm meeting so many guys who use the outdoors. As that, like as a shrink, I'll be like, sit in a chair and listen to good music and put some, put some incense on. And you know what? That's like that's in the ball. That's right in the center of of me. Like I can do that. I love doing that. But I've tried to teach people to do that, or that's not their thing. And I'm like, okay, I get why the outdoors is what does it, because outdoors you have all the things. So the thing about getting out of a PTS moment is PTS kind of pulls you back into a moment in time that's frozen in time. Can I go on about this for a second here?
Of course.
So the memories are so vivid. You've had these kind of memories where you smell what you smelled then, you see what you maybe not all the way to seeing it, but the image of what was happened then kind of interferes with the images of what's going on now. You have this vivid recall memory, where the sights, sounds, smells, feels of what it was like to be in Fallujah looking over your shoulder, starts that danger feeling. There's got to be danger around here. And the way to come out of that PTS memory when you get dragged in there is to notice the sights, sounds, smells, feels of what's going on around you, because that will refresh your brain. That will pull your brain out of a vivid trauma memory. Once you practice doing that a bit, which I'm sure you had to do a lot of practice. Like it doesn't happen automatically. You have to kind of know that that's what you have to do and do it, in a disciplined kind of a way. You can use all that marine discipline to pull yourself out of trauma memory. So thinking about you training guys to do that, I'm like, that just sounds like a real good plan to me. Could really be helpful. Sounds like it was really helpful to you. So trauma memory is a son of a bitch that just yanks you back, takes you out of what's going on now, brings the past to the front, and then it's that exercise to get back connected to the present. That's what psychologists call grounding. And outdoors, perfect place to do it.
Right on. Yeah. I have one major controversial question to ask you, and I just want to know your opinion, because I want to give you some context with it. I can accept the fact that PTSD makes me unemotional, right? And it makes me, it is made me numb in so many ways. But it kind of bothers me whenever I watch the investigation Discovery Channel, the ID channel, and when I hear them describing suspects as being, they didn't react emotionally well enough, they didn't cry enough, they didn't show enough emotion and concern enough, I worry or I wonder, is like, man, I can't feel either. I can't feel because of the war. But then I started to be a little bit afraid and wonder, like, does that make me a psychopath? The same way that the shows on Investigation Discovery were trying to say that these other individuals were psychopaths because they couldn't feel either. So that's my question I wanted to ask you is, do you feel that those of us that did violent jobs in the war, say the infantry, special ops, do you feel that those doing those jobs made us psychopaths?
Well, the short answer is no, or we'd have 500,000 psychopaths wandering around.
Okay.
Okay. It's like we just don't see that. So this is where the forensic psychologist comes in, right? So in doing VA exams now at this point, I've done like almost 9,000 exams. I've never met a psychopath.
What? Really?
Not one time.
Wow.
So I don't know if that's because of the selection of people that come through like the VA system as, like basically people drive themselves to the appointments. They function in life. They have jobs or they have tasks that they do. They have to support themselves. So coming into my office, I'm not always seeing somebody who's on the edge,
Okay.
Right? So so there may be a higher incidence of people shutting themselves off who are on some kind of an edge that I would not end up seeing in the context that I see. But from a forensic perspective, to argue that somebody's a psychopath because of PTSD, there's just not the research for it. There's not the support for that in forensic psychology. So what there's support for is what you just said, that one of the symptoms that pertains to post-traumatic stress is shutting off your emotions, right? So if you can get triggered or activated by, something as simple as somebody dropping a wrench in a garage, right? So that makes you startled, and you turn and you look and you wonder what the heck that clattering noise is, and it sounds to you a little bit like somebody's chambering around or something. Is that
Yeah.
the way to say that? Right? So like somebody's just chambered around. So that's what I've heard from people. Dropping a wrench in a garage sounds like that. So let's say that makes you startled. Well, one of the defense mechanisms for that is just to shut off your emotions, so you don't care so much about stuff. If you cared about everything, that, you'd get triggered all the time.
Right.
So people with post-traumatic stress will turn off their feelings. So meaning that they'll be less empathetic with their kids. They don't want it. You don't want that. We want you to be empathetic with your kids, right? To have good feelings towards your kids, but that doesn't make you a psychopath. So you don't care so much about the other drivers on the road, but that doesn't mean you're going to drive into them,
Okay.
So you tell me what keeps you from being a psychopath. I think it's the moral code. That's what
Right.
right?
Right.
Right.
It's knowing. It's the knowing. And like I said, it's something that is actually something I struggled with big time before, when I felt about the moral injury, was knowing, like, oh man, does that mean certain things I end up doing to people was now illegal, which means I'm wrong, which means I'm the bad guy. And if I'm the bad guy, what the fuck was I doing? You know what I mean? Because that's not the way I ever intended this to be, was for me to end up being the bad guy in this thing. But
Right.
that's
Right. Like, did that make you a psychopath because you were willing to do what the mission required you to do? Right. So this
right.
is, I think, the complicated conversation to have is like, what, like, to what extent does a person, we're not, are you made a psychopath because you were put on missions where there were targeted enemies? This is the kind of thing that we don't talk about in polite society, right? But it is comes with a lot of questions.
That's why we have the show.
That's why this show, that's what I have liked about this show, right? Is so like in polite society, we might come right up against that and then adopt our political perspective about one thing or another, but when you're the guy on the ground doing the job, you want to know, did that bullshit make you into a psychopath?
Yeah.
And we could quickly say no, because like as a psychologist, like I said, in the forensic psychology world, there's really not the evidence or the research support or the articles that say that X percentage of Marines with PTSD become psychopaths. Like, that number is
Oh,
vanishingly small. It's like,
okay.
yeah. So we'll see, but the general public still makes this immediate assumption. You see a guy, we've heard it in the last couple of months, where there's a tragic shooting, and then we hear that the individual was in the service, and then comes all the pundits talking about the impact of the service and the negative stigma about being a service member, and like somehow being a service member is gonna take away your morals. No, really what we have is we have a lot of morally injured.
Right.
That's
Right.
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 You wouldn't feel that injury if you were cold, son of a bitch, right? So, pardon my,
Oh, okay.
right,
Okay. You just helped me figure it out. Thank you, Doc. Thank
right,
you. Okay. That makes sense now.
right.
I was able to
Yeah.
I
It would
was
be,
able to
it would
feel
be
that.
like, who cares? Who cares? It's just, who cares? But
Okay.
you care, so that's what brings the injury part in. And yeah, and then again, it's not easy to, that's a spiritual question, that's a personal question,
Right.
but you living with some kind of guilt is evidence to me that you're not a psychopath. Sorry to say. Right.
Okay. Okay. All right. Oh man, I have struggled with that question for over 15 years. So
Uh,
I have to thank you, Doc. I can't thank you enough. My hat's
yeah,
off. I salute you.
yeah,
You really helped straighten out my head, and I'm sure many other veterans that watch the show and that listen to the podcast. I'm sure you're going to help them to be able to work out, because it's like you said, this is not the type of topic that is spoken on often, but I'm a guy that lives with it because of what I went through, with
yeah,
the country, for the country, and what capacity I was in during the war. Whereas a thing like moral injury is alive and well and in my face. It is
truly.
something that, because you can be mad at the government, you can be mad at the military, but I am an individual guy who's pulling my trigger. I can admit that. So I'm the one who,
Yeah.
when you say we're actually wrong, yeah, it kind of dawns on me. Then like, okay, but then I guess it's like you just also mentioned. If I were that psychopathic, I wouldn't even care about that feeling in and of itself. So it's not. It's
We
not the
wouldn't be
truth. It's
having this
the
conversation, right?
conversation. If I were a psychopath. Oh man, you all right? Okay,
Oh
I
my,
get it
see?
now.
Words are so right. I get to do this job. I feel honored to do this job. I've had hour-long conversations with thousands of service members who are like torn up in front of me, and I'm like, no, no, dude, I'm not finding you to be a psychopath, but I'll also say the hard things, like, that sounds like an alcohol use disorder, that
Oh,
sounds like alcohol is contributing. So, like,
oh,
say a guy could spiral, or a gal, we can't like keep the women out of this, or just have the dude. This
right.
is a conversation for combat veterans, among other things. So, men and women, like, if a person is spiraling into that self doubt, and then starts with the arm exercises, starts with that bit, you can get into a very low place with that, where you judge yourself, the negative talk that a person does. I do see that piece being a big contributing factor to, like, the suicide thinking, and I hate that for people. When that alcohol comes in and, like, just takes you out of your better mind and your better heart. Um, so alcohol can make that worse for people, and can make a person kind of side with that negative talk, like, I guess I am a psychopath. No, you're just too much alcohol, too many negative thoughts, not
Okay.
enough purpose, not enough good people in your life, not enough to pull you out of those years that were hellish. Oh my God, war is like such a hellish experience. I've not been to war, but I've listened to stories of war every week of my life for the last 12 years. I've heard about this war. I've watched people talk about the war. What a hellish experience, and how much our communities need to be aware that we have people among us who lived through hell when they're 18, 19, 20 years old. It's crazy. Just thank you for your service. I'm glad to be talking to you now. This We're 20 years later, man. We're 20 years later here. It's crazy. Yeah.
Right on, right on. I can't thank you enough, Dr. Pamela Hall. I can't thank you enough for coming on to the show and really opening up and being as honest and as helpful as you've been today. Um, I'd like to invite you to come back on sometime in the future. This has been a really helpful and enlightening conversation for me. So I appreciate it. And I'm sure
I'd
the
be
other
happy
veterans
to
are
come on. God, wouldn't it be fun? It would be great just to have some more casual conversations about how this is when a person's in their everyday life. So I appreciate the opportunity to just kind of speak my piece about some of these things. So
all right.
thanks,
All
thanks,
right.
Sarge. War
Good
dogs, war
deal.
dogs, is a real thing, man. It's a real thing.
All
I've met a
right.
lot of war dogs. Yes, sir, I have. So thank you so much. God, the hour went by like a flash. So appreciate you.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Doc. Thanks again. I really appreciate you coming. Episode 68 of WarDawg Trail with Dr. Pamela Hall, PhD, author of PTSD Unplugged. We want to thank her again for coming on the show. Can you tell everyone where they can find out more about you?
Oh yeah, so I'm you can follow me personally on Instagram or professionally, I guess. But the book has PTSD Unplugged. We're on Instagram, Facebook. I'm also on LinkedIn and Twitter. But you can find the book at Amazon. So we have it on Kindle and in a paperback. If you know a vet who could use this kind of overview of what is PTSD, we got some books on reserve that we had a little fundraiser a little while back. So we got about 20 books that we could ship out to vets. If somebody just wants some, DM us on Instagram, that either me or the book on Instagram, would be happy to send it to you. Or you can find us at ptsdunplugged@gmail.com. Also have a website, PTSD Unplugged, where you can find out more about the book. And yeah, I appreciate that. I'd love to get this book into the hands of a lot of people. If not my book, then another book. So, I appreciate being on to be able to get this word out. There's things you can learn about what's going on with PTSD that makes it much easier to manage, but it's not easy. You need a buddy to help you get through it. It's not an easy thing you can't do it by yourself. You got to have a battle buddy. So, yeah.
All right.
We're here to get you connected to resources for sure.
All right.
All right.
Thanks again, Dr. Pam. I really appreciate everything. You enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks. You too. Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. This has been the WarDawg Trail, episode 68 with Dr. Pamela Hall, PhD. All right. Now, we're going to go over a few announcements as we did at the beginning. First off, Reaper Apparel Co. You can use my code Sergeant WarDawg TV and get 10% off your entire order at Reaper Apparel Co. Next, you can find us at the SHOT Show that's coming up next month, January 2024. We will be there with media passes, as we will be some of the only members that are allowed to record the hottest new guns, gear, equipment, fishing, hunting, the outdoors, military, or law enforcement related. Next, Radian Weapons and their Model 1 rifle is a gun that we are really looking forward to testing at SHOT Show Industry Day at the Range in January of 2024. The same thing with rifles coming from Horizon Firearms. We're looking to be testing their weapons at SHOT Show and filming and recording and reviewing their products as well. All right. This has been Sergeant WarDawg with the WarDawg Trail podcast, where we had this book, PTSD Unplugged, by author Dr. Pamela Hall, PhD, here on the show. Have a great week and salute.
All I know is war. All I know is shoot. All I want is more, but I got some things to do. I'm a dog of war. Hell's what I've been through. I'm a dog of war. I did it all for you. I'm a soldier, I'm a warrior. Got an emblem on my cover. And ask me what I did for you. I put the trash deep down under. Yeah, I'm a dog of war. Hell's what I've been through. I'm a dog of war. I did it all for you. Yeah.
Some time in the place, man. I just needed some